Hey, what's everybody? What's up, everybody? Starting to sound like the president. Jeff Colson, junior hockey advisor, going to be joined by Bloomer in a second tonight. It's an open forum. We're going to talk about some of the current things going on, but open forum. Throw your questions out. We're going to go through the discussion group and pick up some of the topics there. Try to flush them out a little bit. At least give our opinions, whatever that matters. Going to be a good night. We're going to have a lot of fun. Let's be lively and let's engage with each other. You got questions? Make sure you throw them on. Let's get rolling. It can't be junior hockey advisor on Wednesday night unless Bloomer's here. Mike Bloom, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for holding the fort down last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday? How about for 2 years?
Oh, yeah. Okay. If that's what you want to think.
Good to see you, man. Hope
you look like you got a little sun. Where have you been?
Actually finding my game, man. That's what I've been doing. Finding my game.
Course?
Yeah. It's probably the best I've hit the ball in 10, 15 years. Amazing when COVID's out of the way, how your body responds positively to things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Just changed a little things. I changed my wrist, and I'm starting to cup the wrist a little more on my takeaway, and it seems to be giving me that compression right where I want it, and things are going well there. I'm pretty happy. Now today was weird though, because the wind was so. I got a push cart. I walk, and the wind was so bad that I had to chase my push cart like 4 times, where I'd like set it and I'd try to angle it. I don't have a brake on it, and I'd angle it so the wind, but the wind was horrible. There was a couple of times where I really spanked a driver, and I might have got 130, 140 yards, straight into this wind. It was high wind warnings, so I don't know what the actual gusts got up to, but it was crazy. Not too many people out today. It's like that in Caddyshack when the minister's out playing, and it's the greatest round of his life. He doesn't want to stop. Yeah, I kind of felt like anyway. Are you ready to rock, man?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it. We got a lot to talk about.
I know. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. There's so much so much has happened in the last few weeks. Why don't you start? You're the host.
I am?
Oh. You're supposed to be. Somebody's got to take the lead here.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of things going on. But, we talked about USHL draft. Let's start out there. That was probably the most topical. And by the way, congratulations, young man. 4 of the players you've put into the Lone Star Brahmas are high draft picks in the USHL draft. That's always a good feeling.
It's a group effort, though. It's our whole scouting staff identifying. It's our coaches coaching these guys up. Honestly, looking at that phase 2 draft in the USHL, I was kind of surprised how many NA players were drafted. I don't know, like year over year, I haven't gone through and counted them up, but it felt like there was a lot of players drafted this year out of them all. There's normally a lot of players, but I just felt like this was a draft that seemed like the most I've seen in a while.
It did seem that way. And you're right. I can't wait till the next few days where I get a chance to go through those numbers and look at them a little bit closer. It did seem that way. But if you think about it, Null's bigger than it was, so you're going to have more kids to pull from that pool. And number two, I think you're going to see less chances taken on the BCHL now, because I think the gauntlet has been thrown down a little bit between the Null and the BCHL. 5 new teams up there. Who knows? The North American Hockey League might actually catch up to 5 new teams here in the next week. The way they're going, what do we have? We're at 4 for the year, new teams for next season. That's crazy. So who knows? It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Who are the new ones this week? Elmira was new this week.
Yep. My buddy Cody Murphy was just announced the head coach for that team, so kudos to him.
Yeah, he was in the Chicago area, wasn't he?
Yeah, he actually coached with us at the Chicago Jets for a couple of years, and then went on to coach junior hockey. He actually coached in the USPHL Premier for Elmira, and then ended up coming back to Chicago and running a different program here as their hockey director, and then now is taking over that job. So kind of bounced around a little bit, but young guy, played D1. You know, he's got a lot of coaching years left in that tank for sure.
So I know that the Mallards announced their coaching staff, and then we were going to talk USHL, but we kind of moved over to the Null. I don't believe that. Let's see, what are our new teams? Elmira, the
Yeah, Watertown, and
Water. Okay, so we don't remember them all. It's hard.
Three.
It's hard.
I think there's only three, right?
There's only three.
There's not four.
Okay, there's only three. I don't know. It's overwhelming now. We're up to what, 34, 35 teams now. It's like, I guess they're doing high math and freaking algebra to keep up with this league now.
Common Core.
Okay, so let's get back to the USHL draft. No real surprises, though. I mean, no,
it was a standard draft when it comes to just kind of how it went. But you know, I think although it did seem like in the phase one where they draft the U15s, which was, what is that, all 08s from this past year.
Yeah.
A lot of tenders now. Like now you're seeing almost the whole first round is tendered players, and now it's getting into the second round also of tendered players, which if you kind of rewind even 5 or 10 years ago, almost barely anyone tendered a guy, you know, and now like it's completely flipped.
Yeah, I did notice that too. We probably the last 4 or 5 years, it seems to be the most obvious of the change, you know, where you're starting to see this change. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, the USHL draft, you know, the USHL draft is a little different than the North American Hockey League draft. It's more international. It's got more of a worldwide flavor to it because it's the top league that still allows you to play NCAA, and it's arguably even the top league overall because of the amount of NHL draft picks, and especially high draft picks. And you know, back up if you think you're going to say, well, it's because of the National Development Program. No, even if you take the National Development Program out, the amount of draft picks that go into the going to the NHL are extremely high and compete with any of the OHL, the Q, or the W up in Canada. Especially when you segregate those 3 leagues alone. If you count them as all one league, yeah, they're great, you know, but they're not as good as all of major junior hockey up there. So it's interesting though. I think that the USHL has definitely made its mark and has put itself in its place. But what else you got to say about that? There's comments coming in too, so we can jump on those.
Yeah, I think just to explain the tendering process in the USHL, it's different because in the NA you have 10 tenders that you can use, and all of that takes place before the draft starts, and then you get into the draft. For the USHL, if you tender somebody, it basically takes your first round pick away, and that player that you tender is basically who would slot in for your first round. So some of the teams that had both their first round and their second round kind of taken away, like if you were following the draft through their platform, it would just say tendered, and then it would go to the next team. The teams who had that in the second round tendered 2 players, so it took their first and their second round away from them. But to the team, you know, that doesn't matter because they're getting a player they want. They're taking that player out of the draft so they don't lose them. Yeah. Obviously, the player wants to play for that program, so it works for him too because he's not going to get taken by a team he doesn't want to play for or doesn't prefer to play for. So, you know, that's something that's different. The other thing that I think is different in the USHL is you'll see kids who either played for the U.S. development program that, you know, have a late birth date and they kind of age out of that USA program, but aren't going to school yet. And you see some USHL teams take flyers on those kids.
Yep.
There's only a few of them, but
some of them even that are committed to schools, they'll still draft them,
right?
Because they might have some inside knowledge, like, well, that's going to be a tough roster to make. They're not going to fit in there. It's an
Ivy going
League
into their senior year.
right.
They're not old enough to go into college, so that's why they're taking them. And then the other thing too is you'll actually see kids who were playing in college already get drafted. Maybe they didn't have a good situation where they were at, and they're looking to play another year of juniors just to kind of reset and maybe recommit somewhere else. So it's a couple different things that are different than what you see in any other draft.
Thanks for the save on that, because I've got a flickering monitor to my right, which just keeps every 3 to 5 seconds it goes black. So I went blank when my screen went blank, and I appreciate you covering on that.
Are you like Ron Burgundy, where you can only read off the teleprompter?
I'm worse than Ron Burgundy. Yeah, so that's the USHL situation. A tender there means much more than a null tender. Not that null tenders aren't important; they are important. But if you're tendered in the USHL, it's kind of like putting a franchise tag on a pro athlete, where they're basically already slotting you in and saying you're the man. Right. And usually it's with one of the top 5 players in North America or in the world. They're that good of players that usually get pulled into that position. So, but now other teams are starting to realize that once you take that kid off the board, that's the number 1 overall draft pick, that if there's a real solid number 2 choice and the number 2 team likes them, they're grabbing him and pulling him off the board too. And so number 3, they're like, well, hey, we didn't want him anyway. We like him. So they go and grab it. And so all of a sudden it's trickling down into the whole process, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes the draft faster too, because you got less kids to worry about it, in the draft process. So, but tenders aren't the same as in the null. The numbers in the null are, it's much more tender heavy in the null, and the tenders, you're actually, for those that don't understand the process in the null, you're trying to take a few home run swings, but you're also covering your bases with safe players that are quality safe players when you tender. So you'll see a tender that might be a kid that might be borderline USHL, or even a USHL player that you think maybe you can, find a way to keep him on your team. But at the same time, you've got safety too. Just the draft in the North American League is the same way too. You're squeezed there. You're sandwiched in between. On the top end, you've got the USHL. Some would argue that you're fighting the BCHL, which is true, you are. But on the bottom end, you still got prep, and you've got tier 3, and you've got to kind of watch all worlds and try to pull from all areas. And the spectrum in between is your U16s and your U18s and other quality junior programs out there. So it's a hard game, Mike. It's once again, kudos for you, man. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for what has been accomplished there, because it's rare that you see 4 USHL picks coming off one null team. I mean, I don't remember. I don't think even Lone Star, who's always one of the top teams in the league, I don't think they've ever done that before, have they?
Not in the years that I've been there, but we've also had a much older team every year. So I think where that comes into play is either the USHL limits how many 20-year-olds can be on a roster, or our guys, for the large majority of the roster, were age outs.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't really have that opportunity. But some of those Minnesota NA teams like St. Cloud and Bismarck and like those teams, they take a lot of Minnesota kids to begin with, so a lot of them do get opportunities in the USHL. So I have to go back and look, but I'm sure there's other programs that have done something similar.
Yeah, that's still a high. That's still a high number.
It's still high. Obviously, we feel great about it, and good on those guys for continuing to put in the work and develop. And
it's bittersweet though, because I guess it's like building a AAA roster in baseball. You do a good job, you put a good core of young players together, and then all of a sudden, they all get called up at the same time. You're like, yikes,
Yeah.
not fun on that side. But you're right. It's good to see the players move up. And the one thing about it is, the USHL it's hard to stick in the league. It's hard to um, it's very, very common to see a player go up and get 5-10 games. I guess it's the same thing with the null to tier 3. You'll see a lot of guys that get a chance to go up and they play 5 or 10 games, and then they filter back down again because they're on that bubble. They're on that fine line between the two. And so anyway,
then you get into play too, where it's like if you're a third or fourth line player in the USHL and it's got to change the way you play to stick there, or you're a top power play guy and top 3 to 6 on your team, if you're already committed. In most cases, these guys that got drafted in the USHL, they're already committed, so it might be better for them to stick where they're at and continue to have really good success and not turn themselves into a grinder or whatever. That all will play itself out. They could very easily get into a top role there too, but we'll see as it goes.
I think it's time for us to do one of those broadcasts again about where you should play. Should you play? In fact, maybe we talk about that a little bit later. I got it written down. Do you play at the top level or the right level? One of our members on our discussion group put that down. I'm stealing that comment because I thought it was really good. Is it best to play at the top level or the right level? And maybe later today we can get into a little bit of that. Let's check the board, see what's coming in here. Troy says, my son attended a null combine and did real well. Was given an invite to a null tryout. He's 18 years old. Should we entertain the invite? That's a loaded question. Mike, jump into that first. I'll be glad to jump in too.
Yeah, I mean, well, congrats first for attending the combine and doing well and getting opportunities afterwards.
Oh, congrats. Hang on that. Congrats. Hang on.
Nice. I'm glad that was readily available for
you. I was on top of that.
You're pulling strings. I didn't know what was going on over there.
I'm in a manual studio. I've got, a little plastic clappers. I got to pull the strings on them,
Yeah. Going back to the question here, as an 18-year-old defenseman, I would 100% entertain, I don't know how many events, or pre-draft camps or main camps or what it was that you got invited to. But, I would definitely follow up with those different teams and, kind of see, what they thought. I'm sure they had a little bit of something when they, invited them to that next opportunity. But then I would kind of look at those rosters too and see how many kids are aging out and kind of get a feel for what the openings might be. Because if you've gotten multiple offers, you want to you don't want to do all of them, but you want to kind of figure out, if I'm going to do one or two, which are the two teams that I'm going to go and attend those events for.
Yeah, and especially too on this too, if you get an invite, and you didn't state if it was a main camp or a pre-draft. If it's something right around now, it's pre-draft. Some programs in the null are very, very serious about their pre-draft. And, I had a couple players this week saying, hey, can you make sure I get an invite to your main camp? Texted me because I talked to the players earlier in the week, earlier in the season. And I said, it really doesn't work that way. I said, we've got pre-drafts coming up. We have 2 of them. We have one on the East and one in Chicago. And until we get through that and see who we're inviting from the pre-drafts, and this player opted not to go to the pre-drafts, so he's going to get in line behind those players that we invite there first. So if you get a chance to go to a null pre-draft, or even thankfully, if you get to the point where, I shouldn't say thankfully, but if you do get a chance to go to a main camp, that's also a great thing too. But more and more, the pre-drafts are becoming not only essential now, get back off if you got this attitude of it's just a moneymaker. Well, guess what? Hockey skates are moneymakers. Sticks are moneymakers. Selling popcorn at the concession stand are moneymakers. This is a business, okay? They're all moneymakers, and that's the way things work. But it's still quality, and it's still ice time, and it's still exposure. And it's becoming more and more essential to build a roster, to use these camps to fill a roster. I would venture to say soon we'll probably see teams doing maybe 3 or 4 pre-drafts to find players and to find the right players. So I wouldn't poo-poo anything with a pre-draft camp. I think they're extremely valuable. Yeah, and yeah, of course, there's 30 some odd teams out there now. Is there going to be a couple teams that don't do it to your liking? Probably, but the vast majority are putting an effort into trying to find the best players. And the one thing you can do is ask. You get invited to these things, make sure the coaching staff's going. That's a big tell right there. Is if the coaching staff is there, they're serious about this. If the coaching staff doesn't show up, and maybe it's just a scout or two, that tells you a lot. You know, I would hope that the coaching staff, that the owners, that the people that run the programs are there and helping make the decisions on these things. So that's important. So all right, anything else you want to say on that one, Mike?
No.
Okay, good. Let's move on. Stephen, thanks for this information here. That should say St. Paul area got a team. Yeah, I think that's the Mallards. I think we're on top of that. Let's see here. I don't understand this one. Mike, you got an idea what's going on here with Jeff?
No, I think he's just shouting out. That's where they're coming in from.
Okay, well maybe that's Slim Shady, or
Nice.
Sade, the singer. Could be one or the other. He's either hanging around with Eminem. He's got a little Slim Shady going on, or Sade. I don't know how she spells her name, but one way or another, Jeff's having a good night. Okay, what's Bud got to say? Bud's coming in from Vegas. Now,
wow.
If the Null was going to do another franchise, shouldn't it be Vegas?
Well, everybody's going to Vegas. Why shouldn't the Null?
Why shouldn't the Null? And to be honest with you, that's the team that I put my hat in, my name in the hat for a GM. Right there. Boom. Take me. Vegas should be next on the list. What's that, Wynn guy or Trump? Somebody jump in there and buy a franchise there and put it right in the hotel. Build the rink right onto one of these big ass hotels and in a big casino too. That would be a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure they want a bunch of 18 to 20-year-olds zipping around Vegas.
Well, it's not different than a lot of the Western, the BCHL teams and the AJHL teams. I think I told you the story. The hotel we were staying at when we went up, my wife and I went up to visit our son when he was playing in the AJ. He was playing in Camrose. The hotel had a casino that was about the size of your garage, and but they had a team event there every Tuesday night or Wednesday night. The whole team would go to the casino, and now this is only 6-7 years ago, but the blackjack tables were, you could play 50 cents or $1 on the tables. So you got all these kids with their $5 bill, high rolling it on the tables, So, and the coaches showed up, it's just a different culture, different world. But it was very interesting to see the coaches having a couple pitchers, and the players that were old enough, and even the ones that weren't, having a couple pitchers too. And then they kind of go, 6 to 8 o'clock, and then, oh, we're done. Let's go. Everybody's out of here. And they would all leave and dissipate. So no different.
There might be a couple more things that you could get in trouble with in Vegas than in a garage casino.
Yeah, there might be, but you'll have to fill me in later on those, because I'm really not sure where you're going with that. So,
all right,
I would put a little track, like a applause track on something like that, but I only know how to use the applause one. And what I don't know on this is, what the hell is a glockenspiel? Is that an instrument?
I have no idea.
Should I hit the button and see what glockenspiel is?
No.
Yes. Oh, nope. Never to be done again.
Wow. That defines you right there. You are a glockenspiel. I've ever heard one.
That glockenspiel sounds German though. It sounds like it should be more hefty, Javo or whatever. Anyway, okay, let's get back on with this. Let's see where we left off. Okay, Bud from Vegas. Love that. Now we're on. This one's yours, Mike.
Brian and Lori from Columbus, Ohio. Both played for, oh boy, Is that the
Okay.
Ohio State club
No,
in the
we
90s?
didn't see that one. That one didn't, it didn't
Oh
come up.
boy.
Okay, now hold it. You got to help me out here. Is the OSHL Ohio State Hockey League? Is that what that's got to be?
I would imagine. I'm not familiar with it either.
Yeah. Okay. Boy, oh boy. It's a shame. I guess somebody's got to be there, Lori. Good work, Brian and Lori. Thanks for coming on, I guess. as we got the Detroit things and we've got our Michigan paraphernalia. You're not going to get much love here. We love you, but not that much. Okay, here we go. This one. I'm a 05 USPHL elite player who wants to move up to the Premier or Junior B level. How do I do that? We've got about 250 videos online that help you with all the different things you can do to market yourself. But you got to get yourself out there and be. People have to know you want to go up. The biggest fallacy, and this is a perfect one. Amado, is it Amado? Amado Buford, like Buford T. Pusser. I like
Burford.
Burford. I like Buford. Remember Buford T. Pusser? What was that?
That's before my time.
Oh, come on now. Buford T. Pusser, I believe, was the guy from Walking Tall that carried the big stick. The sheriff just beat everybody to hell with a 2x4. Not Mondo. I'm not saying you carry a 2x4 or beat people up.
Did you get onto his question?
Yes, I can get onto his question. The biggest fallacy is, especially at your level, is if you're good enough, they'll find you. Well, I can tell you there are tons of opportunity in the USPHL. You got to reach out to these teams. You got to ask them about, and explain, hey, coach, I'm very interested, but I can't go to 60 different, main camps. If you're interested, I can send you a video. You got to get your name out there. You're a prime example of somebody who should be looking into the CCHL and the CJHL, the Canadian Junior Hockey League system, at all the teams, maybe the CCHL, but you should be looking at all the leagues up there. You should be looking at the Premier League, NA3, all these, and just reaching out. The first thing you do is reach out. And don't just get a hold of the coach. Get a hold of the coach, the general manager, the scouts. For one team, you can send. What do you think, Mike? Some teams you can send 5 or 6 different emails out to one team,
right?
Because you don't know who is going to be taking care of incoming players. It could be a scout that handles that. It could be the assistant coach. It could be assistant general manager, GM. Hell, it could be the head coach himself. You don't know. So you send emails out to everybody. Good luck in that. Mike, you got anything else to add to what he could do?
Yeah, I was just curious if the USPHL elite program that he has is connected to a premier program, because a lot of times they have that direct affiliation where they have a premier and an elite team, and if they don't have an elite team, then you definitely have to do a lot more work to get your name out there, like you said, with sending emails and sending some video clips and things like that. You're going to have to do some work on your end to get that exposure, because these all these different junior leagues and the coaches that run them, they're coaching their games all season long. It's not like they're having the time to go and scour like every league for players and whatnot. So you guys got to do the work yourselves to be your advocate too. And it's not to say you need an advisor, but you need to be proactive in that. If you want to move on, you got to make sure that you're doing the work on your end to be able to move on both on the ice, but then off the ice when it comes to your training and your outreach.
Yeah. And we're making one big assumption here. We're making an assumption that you're in the top half of that league. So if you're playing at the elite level, the bottom third, the bottom half, I think it's fair to say at any level, it's very difficult to move up. You're not going to find a bottom half null guy getting an opportunity in the USHL for the most part, unless there's some unique situation there. They're taking top half, top third, top 10%. Okay. So you got to, assume at every level that you really should be in the top third, top 10%, but top half, the lower you go, I think the margins and the degree of, off the margins, the standard deviations get a little bit bigger. So if you're in the situation where you're looking, you got to open up every door you possibly can. It's reasonable to say if you're in the top half, uh, there's going to be somebody out there. And that goes back to the question that we just brought up. One of the people, I wished I would have wrote down the name of the person that put this on our discussion group, but it really comes down to, if you're in the middle of your league you're in right now, and you're still young enough, do you take that extra year to dominate at that level? Or do you move up and then become somebody else's fourth or fifth line guy at the next level up? So I would be very cautious of just making a jump to say, hey, I'm playing in a higher league. There's a lot of discussion around, is it better for your development? Is it better for you becoming a better player if you jump up, if you're still not at that point where you're 100% confident in your game? And really, that's what it comes down to. To be a better player means you're playing with complete confidence, because you can see it all the time. You can see players that jump up to the next level and the coaches are screaming at them. The game's going fast. People are chirping. There's crowds. Now all of a sudden you're playing in front of 1,000, 3,000 people, and all this stuff starts coming at you, real quick. And you don't play to your best abilities because you just weren't ready for all that. I'm sure you're not seeing 3,000 people in the stands playing at the elite level. Okay. And that comes along with moving up to, maybe not to the USPHL Premier, but as you move into tier 2, that definitely becomes part of it. We got enough on that one, Mike?
Yes, we do.
Good luck on that. Very, very good to see you on here. Normally we only get the parents. We don't get the players. Let's see what Jill has to say. You got this one, Mike.
What are your perspectives on postseason? How much time should guys take off following an 8-month season, but prior to main camp? So it is important to get away. I think each player, especially as they get older, will kind of understand how much time they need to kind of take the skates off and not put them on. A lot of people have like that 2-week rule. Some people could go a month. Some people don't take enough time and they're on, a couple days after the season, or they never even really stop, to be honest with you. I think you do need to take some time. I don't know what that magic number is of how much time you need to take a break. But it is important to mentally reset, to get the body to reset. But it is very important also, having said that, to do a lot of your training in the off season to build up muscle and strength and flexibility, and work on some of the weaknesses you have and try to improve those, while also making sure the strengths that you have as a player remain the strengths that you have as a player. And when you're practicing and playing and your season is in session, it is so hard to work on a lot of that weakness because you're more in game mode and fixing things for the upcoming series and, different things like that. So this gives you time to really be specific with your training, and you don't have a bunch of games and coaches telling you what to do and whatnot. You can kind of plan it yourself and then attack it. So again, it is important to take a break. I think the player will have a better idea of how much time that means to them as they get older, and they've kind of gone through it a few times and realize, oh, that's too much time. Next off season, I'm not going to take off as much, or man, I hit that burnout rate because I didn't give myself a big enough break between seasons, and then they kind of recalibrate each year.
Yeah, and I think what Mike said there that I agree with. I agree with everything he said. It's in different degrees that I agree with what degree I agree with him on. One thing, it really is up to the individual, because there are some kids that need that 4 to 6 weeks off. I think Terry Flood just mentioned that in one of his comments. There's other kids out there that, one of my 2 players, 1 week, and they were ready to go again. I mean, they just fired up and couldn't wait to get back on, wanted to hit it hard lifting, wanted to hit it hard on fixing all the things that they thought were their weaknesses. And you really couldn't stop them. There was no formalized stuff. My daughter, who is an NCAA champion when she played, as soon as the season was over, she could care less about training again till midsummer, but she wanted to play in a 3-on-3 league with the guys instead of the girls. She wanted to play in a men's league just to have fun and be on the ice and skate around. So everybody has a different process and a different way of looking at things and a different way of handling things. I don't think there's a right or wrong to this. I think you got to gauge it and give them as much time as they need or as little time. And the reason I say is little time because you know what? If I'm a bassoon player and I'm a high level tier 1 elite bassoon player, or what's another one of those instruments?
I don't even know what a bassoon is, so you've lost me.
Trumpet. Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Trumpet. Let's say I'm one of the best trumpet players around, and I'm first chair in this and first chair in
more
that.
Like a tuba guy.
I got something to say, but I'm not going to do it. Anyway, I don't think they take 4 to 6 weeks off. I think if you play the trumpet, you play the trumpet and you practice it all the time. Maybe they take a little bit of time off here and there, but if I'm a guitar player, you don't hear, any rock stars going, hey, every summer I put down my guitar for 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months. I didn't play it in the summer because I needed time away from it. I don't think that's the case. I think you should do other things, but I just don't know if you really need to get away from it as much as you want for everybody. Some absolutely need it, but it doesn't mean you can't play other sports. I know many of the athletes I've dealt with over the years played baseball, played lacrosse, played soccer in the spring and summer, school sports, non-school sports. They were into water skiing. They were into anything you can think of, golf, tennis, and they still went into the rink 2 or 3 times a week and kept up with their conditioning and their training and their weightlifting. So it's relative. That's all I got to say. It's relative. We good on that one?
Yeah. The full contact guitaring. I want to see that.
Okay. Now I got called out on this. Buford T. Pusser was played by Jackie Gleason in Smokey and the Bandit. Okay. So who was the guy that played in Walking Tall? Mr. Dave Kennedy coming in with the big answers here.
The Rock.
Okay. Well, he played in the remake of it. The Rock did play in Walking
That's my
Tall.
era.
But I got to know what the character's name was. I thought it was something like that. So anyway, that's it. Hey, did you see what Terry put on here too? Terry
I can't see anything unless you show it.
There, I just did. That's why I said, did you see what Terry put on there? It's right there. Terry says that Las Vegas has a junior team. Must be a tier 3 team. That's good.
DC
that's
maybe.
Great. Yeah, that's good. But I want an all team there. I'm not going to apply for anything else except for an all team. And most likely now that I've put this out there to the world, I won't even have to apply. They'll just say, "Hey, if you're in Vegas, you've already got a GM ready to go." So, sorry for the rest of you. All right, I'm assuming that Armando,
Jesus,
you do have a premier team. Oh, he's answering you. Remember when you said it? Amanda, sorry, Armando. It's just a different name. I'm not used to it. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. Trent says, this is good advice here. Most websites have recruitment forms online as well. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Use whatever sources you have. Terry's going to put something on here that says the physical demand between instruments and hockey is a bit different. Oh, but it's all mental. Okay. All mental.
One aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how hard that all that vibration.
Oh my God.
The fingering.
Move on.
Okay. This one's yours and it's up on the screen for you.
Yay. Are there really that many hockey people who can afford to pay full freight at prep schools and boarding schools? Or are there more aid or scholarships available than it appears that I'm aware of? By the way, thanks for the help with my questions last week.
Okay, you want this one or want me to take this one?
You're the prep school guy. You take it.
Yeah, well, see, yes, there is quite a few people that can afford to pay, top freight. But remember, prep schools have legitimate academic and athletic money they can give to students if they want them to come in and participate in sports or in academics, whatever the case may be. you can actually find a lot of prep situations now that will fund, part or all of your costs. Uh, that's the way it is. East Coast preps, there is money available at those schools, and you'll find a lot of lower middle class families uh, that can afford to go to prep school because of the packages that are put together for them. I am not an expert on the packaging. I'm an expert on what the players are like at those levels, what type of players they have, where those players go. But I can tell you that there's absolutely opportunities there. You just have to make yourself known to be available to play at those levels. You got to reach out and say, because everybody assumes that prep coaches recruit every single player. Of course they're out there recruiting, but they can't see everybody on their roster. If you're really, really a big, strong prep program and you're one of the top programs, maybe you do have a roster that's mostly people you recruited. But then again, there are lots of teams out there that the parents and the players reached out to them and then found a way onto the roster. So let's set that aside a little bit and talk about the ability for even juniors and money for juniors. And we talked about this probably a month or two ago, Mike. I can't remember exactly when. Don't forget, technically, teams can't give you a deal to be on their team. In other words, they can't say our tuition is $10,000, but you only have to pay $5,000, or you only have to pay $2,000, or you don't have to pay anything. There is one way to get around that, is if you take a job with the team where it's a structured job. You're working 20 hours a week for the team. It's legitimate work, and they offset the amount of hours to what your tuition is, and you could work it off at a reasonable rate. So 10, 15, maybe even $17 an hour. And if you're working 10 hours a week, you can get $170 taken off your tuition every week. If you're working 20, you can do the math on that, $340. But the thing about it is teams are technically, by NCAA rules, not allowed to discount for one player without offering it to every player. Now, do people skirt this rule all the time? Absolutely. Is it right? You be the judge. Like I've told people all along, I'm the last one that's going to ever try to take advantage of something like that, because I'm the one that'll get caught. I've always had that black cloud when it comes to, the devil on this side, the angel on this side, and I listen to the devil, and that's all of a sudden when the lightning bolt comes down and hits me. It might miss everybody else, but it's going to hit me. So I don't believe in utilizing those shady deals. Let's just face it, they're shady deals. Some people will disagree with me and say, take advantage, whatever. That's your choice. Go ahead and do what you want. But there's always some deal out there. And, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I think it does happen probably more than we know. And, the reality is the NCAA has so many other things that they're trying to, especially in this NIL world, they're trying to handle all these different things, that going after a random team in a league that they really have no concept of even what it is the last thing on their minds. But to your point, if they ever decided to do that, you can get in a lot of trouble for doing that type of thing.
Yeah. One of my wife's professional workmates, or people that she associates with, colleagues, maybe not a colleague, not that strong, kind of cohort, maybe. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that a little bit better. Anyway, their spouse, they're all attorneys. My wife's an attorney, but the spouse works for the NCAA, and I've had several conversations with her about this situation, and she just throws her hands up and goes, it's something we're not going to tackle. And she works for them, and she's one of the people that dives into these issues on things that they consider to be more of a priority. And so, yeah, you're probably going to get away with it until it's me. So, the time I decide to do it is when all of a sudden the NCAA says, hey, look, we've got resources now. Let's go after him. So anyway, this is the important part. Look at this. Dave Kennedy comes through. Joe Don Baker played the sheriff in the original Walking Tall. The movie is based on Buford Pusser. Okay, at least I was right. I appreciate that. Maybe I said Buford T or P, but it was Buford Pusser.
You combined them, but you got Buford right.
And I got Pusser right.
Oh, okay. I can't remember.
Terry's just jumping in with both feet in the water tonight. Las Vegas Thunderbirds USPHL Premier. They just moved to the Silver Knights rink in Henderson. Oh, we talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I did hear that. That's right.
Yeah. And forgot about that already. It's just too many teams making changes this year or added in, and I can't keep up with it all. So, okay, Dave Kennedy asked the question. Thoughts on the CCM Showcase in Denver this Memorial Day weekend? Ooh, okay. Go ahead, Mike. You go first.
I mean, I don't know too much about it. I've never been there to see it, so it's hard for me to comment on it. We just had a CCM event here in Chicago maybe like 3 weeks ago or so, and overall it was a good event. Like there was a lot of teams playing and the good players playing in the spring and whatnot. So I'd have to imagine it's somewhat similar, but I've never been there, so it's hard for me to really comment. I know sometimes things change when it moves to different cities, and it's either much better or it's a little bit worse. So I don't really know when it comes to Denver specifically.
Yeah, 10, 12, 15 years ago, I went to this a couple times, had a blast. The organization provided for, my accommodations and transportation. So it's kind of a no-brainer to go out there and see players and get a chance to, to be out there. And, we were part of the EJHL at the time, which that's the precursor to the NCDC, a much better league, much more Division I talent, even NHL draft pick talent. But yeah, and then we started sending assistant coaches out there every year for probably 5 or 6 years consistently. You will get a lot of younger coaches that are out on the road recruiting and, junior college. So it's good. I don't think there's anything wrong with the event if it's still at that standard. And some of you that may have been to the event recently, you can tell me if they still have a lot of coaches that come to the event. I want to say 25, 30 coaches from juniors and from colleges were there. And then more would come and watch, but actually participating where they're a part of it, the number was pretty high. So there you go. Hey, you got your fan.
There he is.
Yeah.
Maxfield. That's our guy.
That's right. See what we got here. Will you be in Blaine next weekend for the Robertson Cup and Prospect games? Well, it depends on
it.
Yeah, it depends on who the Final Four are. We probably won't be there if the Final Four does not include Lone Star, but if Lone Star is in the Final Four, I'm pretty sure you'll see one or two of us there. Mike usually does not like to go anywhere unless I'm there to hold his hand, to make sure he gets up on time, eats right, all the things that need to happen. So there's a good chance. We'll be there. Are you going, Terry? Is that what you're saying? You want to hang out, have a beer or two? Is that what? But you're from Minnesota, so it's like going around the block for you. No big deal. So anyway, we didn't get into much as we wanted to get into tonight. We talked a lot of nonsense, but we got a few valid things in. Mike, what else should we cover here? Because we started out wanting to make sure we covered the broad swath of things happening. We covered a couple weeks ago or last week the USPHL moves, which are mostly just like that was brought up to us earlier. Most of it wasn't new franchises coming in. It was switches of franchises from one city or one ownership group to another. USHL looks like they're standing pat. The BCHL has already made all their moves for the most part. One team is dropping out of the BCHL. They picked up the 5 teams from the Alberta League. Alberta, I haven't heard anything else going on up there as far as it goes.
Did they add a team in Alberta in the AJ?
What's that?
Did the AJ add a team?
Boy, I'll have to go back and look. Maybe they did, and I already forgot about it. Like I said, this has been a hard year to keep up with.
Yes, there's so many NCDC teams getting, switched around and new teams. There's new null teams. Every league it's so hard to
Yeah.
track.
Usually you have 4 to 6 changes, 8 changes in a year for everybody, and this year it just seems like it's crazy out of control. So don't know the answer to that.
A couple things we haven't talked about. We're down. Everybody's in the playoffs for the most part in their seasons. If not, they're already done. The USHL is down to the championship series. It's Dubuque versus Fargo, which is 2 of the premier teams in the USHL going against each other. So that starts this weekend. You got in the NA. Basically it's the division championships for each of the divisions. So most of those series are at least 2 games in by now. A lot of them are, 1-1 splits so far, including the Lone Star Shreveport matchup. So a lot of really good hockey for people that enjoy junior hockey to be able to watch at this point, which is cool to see. It all just happens at the same time, where it's like the games are Friday, Saturday for the USHL and the NUL and all the different divisions and everything. So it is hard to watch multiple games because they usually start at the same time also. But it's fun to track. I'm always on the Game Center on either the USHL app or the NA app and just kind of following scores as they go. And
how do you watch all that hockey and still get the chance to watch your Dancing with the Stars?
We still haven't showed our viewers you dancing salsa on TikTok. That literally I can't go on TikTok now without seeing it. Literally every time I jump on it.
Well, now you're part of the algorithm.
Of videos out there.
That's right. You and your algorithm. It doesn't look a bit like me. It looks like Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. And why you think I look like him, I have no idea. The guy's bald. I still have hair. Okay, that guy's.
You're bald. Focusing in on the wrong things for how the resemblance occurs.
That guy is. I mean, I'm a thick boned guy. That guy's tubby. Okay, there's a big difference.
You can't move like him. You can't move at all like him.
You don't know that.
I know that. I've seen you maneuver.
I got stories about dancing, man.
Yeah, that guy's still doing it, and he's flawless.
Well, that's true. I got to give the guy credit. You're in your 40s or 50s, and you can still do the jitterbug. I never could do the jitterbug. I didn't even know what the jitterbug was until you started sending me that crap. Quit sending it. Okay.
It's beautiful.
Shreveport and Lone Star. Didn't we just have this conversation last year? It doesn't seem like that's a conversation we have a lot as far as the finals.
They're always playing each other. It's ridiculous.
And it's like and it's a bloodbath. It's a battle. Yeah. It's every division is good hockey, but if you want to see 2 rivals, probably. Well, in the North American Hockey League, there is no better rivalry than those 2. This is the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. It's just Louisiana and Texas. And they're, boom, they're going at it and clashing. But there's so many underlying stories. Remember, the 2 coaches played with each other for years in the pro league that was in Shreveport. The general manager coached the Shreveport general manager coached these 2 coaches. So there's a tie there, and the rivalry's deep on this. And, all the fans know the 2 coaches as far as their heritage in, pro hockey in that area. And Dan Wildfong's jersey, the Lone Star coach out of Dallas, his jersey hangs in the pond. He's got his number retired, and it hangs in the rafters there. So it's just, it can't be any better than this if you go watch hockey. And even on TV, you can. Both teams have really good announcers. I do give the nod to Chet out of Shreveport. He adds a flair and a flash that it may be the best in the NUL. Lone Star's got a great tandem that works their games too, but he's got things that come out of his mouth that it's just fun. It's just fun. It's a good
I like
rivalry.
whenever things get a little tense, I always hear him. Uh-oh.
Yep.
His uh-oh call is always
Yeah.
it gets me laughing.
But
Uh-oh.
you know, they do things there with their. He's practically part of the traveling staff, a lot closer than I've ever seen with any other team. He's on the road with that team every time they go on the road. He's in the level of professionalism. He's doing interviews the whole time he's on the road. You know, they do a press conference once a week on either Monday or Tuesday, and you know he runs the press conference, and it's just really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of things there. Let's get through a few of these, and then we'll jump on. Okay. Terry says, I live close to the rink, 30 minutes from the rink. I have coach juniors and plan on talking to the Mallard staff. Yes, it would be fun chatting hockey. Hey, find us.
Great.
Better hurry up on the Mallards. I think they announced their staff, but you better get on there quick, Terry. It's good for you though. I hope you get the job. Hope you get involved at the Null level. It's a lot of fun. So kettle corn question here. Is kettle corn any good in Shreveport? Shreveport is known for the mud bugs. Your pregame has got to be at one of the barbecue joints that have seafood. Get a plate full of the mud bugs. They're kind of like little shrimp things. We did it when we were down there when my son was playing down there. Yeah, I don't know about kettle corn. I don't know if I've ever tasted kettle corn. Mike, are you?
There's somebody. Yeah, I've had kettle corn before, but
I don't even know what it is. That's usually at the carnival or something, isn't it?
Yeah, there's two teams in the Null South that always go back and forth on the kettle corn. I think it might be Amarillo and some of the, I don't know which of the teams in the South. There's one that's known for the kettle corn. That's like their calling card, but I think it's one of the teams in Texas. It's not Corpus. It's either Amarillo or I don't think it's El Paso. I think it's Amarillo, to be honest with you.
I've been at all those rinks. I couldn't tell you because, that if I get anything for a snack, I'll get a bag of peanuts and, sit there and shuck the peanuts like I do at a baseball game. But normally, you go to the coach's room because you want to get free stuff. And they usually don't have kettle corn in there for the free give-me's, So anyway, sorry we can't help you on that one, Matt. All right, this one's a good one. And then we're going to start wrapping up here. Of players you've moved on to NCAA Division III, what average scholastic scholarships do they get? Mike, you want to go or do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead. You obviously owned a junior team, so you probably had more players that you personally helped through this process.
So it really is contingent on a couple things. In-state, out-of-state. There's two different packages. Remember, in-states, for most programs, your budgets, your academic budget to go to school there per semester is going to be drastically less. But academic scholarships come attached mostly to a couple things. One is that out-of-state kid can get money from schools because they want, a lot of schools are looking for flavor. They want kids from all the states and Canada. So if you're adding flavor to the school, a lot of times there is a special grant or scholarship for out-of-state people. It's open to all students, not just hockey players. But at the same time, there's academic scholarships. There's the Dean's Scholarship Program. There's the Presidential Scholarship, whatever they're going to call it. And that is contingent on, in most cases, right to the grade point. So if you come in with a super high grade point, you can get help. I can tell you, like, the SUNY system, which has got a lot of great hockey programs in New York, State University of New York, SUNY. There's not Elmira. There's Cortland. There's Buffalo. There's Brockport. There's Oswego. And I've only hit, I think there's like 6 or 7 teams now. Geneseo. All these, every one of the schools are a little bit different. They all have a little bit different tuition, but there's money there. And if you're in state, it's virtually nothing now to go to a SUNY school because of the way they've set up the tuition programs for people in state. So yes, there's money there. The Wisconsins at the Division III level work the same way. It's not uncommon if your tuition is 14 grand as an out-of-stater in Wisconsin, if you got a decent grade point average, they'll take $6,000 or $8,000 off of it with a president's award or whatever they're going to call it. So there is definitely money out there. Lower the lower your grade point, you still might get, $1,000 or $1,500. But boy, oh boy, this is where that grade point comes into play. And if you keep your grade point up, and you don't necessarily have to be an honor student, you don't necessarily have to be somebody that's got all AP classes. But if you keep the grade point up, that's that qualifier on that ladder to get you up and get more money. They're usually, all these types of schools are usually really good with grant and aid. As long as you're in a situation that you can qualify for grant and aid, you can go to school with a little bit of loans and a lot of grant money and practically cover everything. The other thing too is the higher end private schools, they can be extremely liberal too, because I've had many kids go to an East Coast school like a Hobart, go to an Elmira, go to a school. Trying to remember the school that's the military school that starts with an N. Can't remember it now. It's one of the best programs out there. Anyway, you go to one of these high end schools, there can be even more money. It can be $15,000 or $20,000, as long as what you're not going to get is it just basically, you're not going to get it just for being an athlete. It's got to be something attached to your academics. You could be the greatest athlete that ever shows up on campus, and the way the NCAA Division III is set up now, you're not identified by being an athlete anymore across the board. That doesn't happen that way anymore. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Good. All right, Mike. We just crossed that one hour mark. I think we should wrap it up. Wow. That's when we just do the Ask Me Anythings and the questions come in, we got great questions tonight. Thank you so much. If you haven't gone to our Facebook page yet, Facebook discussion group, please go. Like and follow us on the page and the discussion group if you can on Facebook and YouTube. You're killing it there now. We're starting to get algorithms. I think I told you it's the last 2 weeks. We're killing it as far as the amount of views and the amount of hours watched per day and per week. We had a video, Mike, that we made 4 years ago that just got 1,000 views in 1 week last week. And that's the USA Hockey video on how USA Hockey works. There's a couple other videos that just took off like crazy. We're such a select niche. I know that if I was a Kardashian, 1,000 videos would be like in a minute. Okay. We're not the Kardashians here. We got a smaller niche. Okay. We're just niche.
Yeah. It's however you want to say it. It can be said both ways.
That was a waste of money. I can tell you this right now. Yeah. I've got an MBA, but I went and I did a master's in English. I wasted my money. I can't speak any better. I can't write any better. I can't spell any better. It was a waste of money. I got to tell you. So anyway, thank you, Mike.
I'm just curious, since we had some of those videos explode with viewership, what are your salsa TikToks? What are the views on those that you put out there?
I was just going to say all the videos that blew up, you weren't in any of them. That was amazing.
That does not surprise me.
You might not have made the algorithm,
That doesn't surprise me.
No, we'll show the salsa thing so you can get that out of your way sometime, but we're not going to do it tonight. You got to
bring it up every time.
I didn't bring it up this time.
Yes, you did.
Did I?
Yes, every time you've brought it up.
What did I say? I can't remember. I can't remember anything I say anymore. Okay.
Right. We'll show it at some point. These are just teasers each week.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Thanks for sticking with us on such a kooky night. And thanks for dealing with, for both of us in what we're doing here. We'll see you all next week, and we'll come up with another great topic for you, and we'll talk some junior hockey. Good night, everybody.